This week on Motoring 90.
It's a driver's track. It's not brute horsepower here. It's just handling and driver ability, and a lot of guys are not used to it. And so there's a fair bit of sorting out process going on. And regrettably in the process, some of the guys have been a few fenders.
I had a lot of trouble picking the winner here because the MR2 and 323 are both highly desirable cars for totally different reasons.
Motoring 90 is brought to you by Quaker State. The big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.
Exhibition Stadium in downtown Toronto. Hello everybody and welcome to Motoring 90. Now this used to be home to the Blue Jays and the Argonauts, but they since have moved to the more fashionable Sky Dome. And today, Exhibition Stadium is home to the stock cars. This was the scene 25 years ago when stock cars used to roar at the X every Tuesday and Friday night. The racing was popular with fans with an average of 15,000 showing up. Today, the smell of racing fuel and burnt rubber is back, but the fans are not.
You know, there's 55,000 seats up there, and if you only put 5,000 or 6,000 people in here on a night, they look lost. So we have a big job to do. This is probably the finest short track racing facility in North America. Not only do we have, and I know it sounds like a commercial message, but not only do we have 55,000 seats, but we have the instant replay board, we have videotape for people such as you who need it. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. I mean, it's a fantastic facility. And our job, frankly, is to be a little bit more aggressive and let people know. Well, you have to recognize what they've been trying to do. This facility, when Argos and the Jays moved over to the other facility, they lost an awful lot of revenue, and the facility's been losing somewhere in the order of $400,000 a year since they moved. And City Council and Metro Council said, we've got to turn this around. And they looked at putting racing in here, and I think they were very intent on getting the facility up and running, paving the track. That was $600,000. And I think they haven't been quite as aggressive in terms of marketing it as they should be. I think that you have to recognize that this city now is very sophisticated from the standpoint of entertainment dollar. There's racing going on almost every weekend, motorsports. There's bicycle racers, there's amateur things. I mean, there's something for somebody to do in this city all the time. And if we want people to get into this stadium and become loyal fans of stock car racing and Can-Am midgets, we just have to be a little bit more aggressive. We run on Thursday nights under the lights here at the Exhibition Stadium from 7:30 until about 10:30. And then on Sunday afternoons, we run what are called Can-Am midgets. They're smaller cars, they run motorcycle engines, and those are wickedly quick. They put on quite a show, along with hobby cars, which is an amateur form of racing. And that runs from 1:30 until about 4:30 in the afternoon. Constant action, good fun.
Well, obviously, you don't come down here to run circles for nothing. You want to set your car up, you want to do the best you can in the feature. And obviously, we want to give you that little bit of time to be able to do that set up for the feature.
Most of these guys are used to running on a classic oval. And this is unique as an overused word, but it is a unique track. It's an egg-shaped oval. It's only got 3 turns. It's flat, and it's quite different from what they're used to. So it's a driver's track. It's not brute horsepower here. It's just handling and driver ability, and a lot of guys are not used to it. And so there's a fair bit of sorting out process going on. And regrettably in the process, some of the guys have been a few fenders.
Have you been here before?
First time.
What made you come out?
My friend here called me over.
Are you surprised at how small the crowd is?
Yes, I am. That's okay, because you get to sit anywhere you want.
Are you enjoying the action?
Very much, very much. It's a good time. I'll be back.
Have you been here before?
This is my first time at the races.
What brought you out here?
He dragged me. No, I love race cars. I go nuts over them. He knows it.
Is it nice and convenient, though, having it downtown like this?
Absolutely, absolutely. The track is it's kind of boring, actually, it being circular, but it's kind of nice having it all here. You can see the whole race, as opposed to just one little part of it.
Motoring 90 has learned that Mazda may be in contravention of federal standards over daytime running lights on 2 of its models. Federal guidelines stipulate that any vehicle manufactured after December 1st, 1989 must have daytime running lights that remain on at all times when the vehicle is moving. The 2 models in question are the Miata and the 929. On both cars, parking lights are employed to double up as a daytime system. The problem apparently arises when the driver signals to turn and one of the lights goes off. The feds have notified Mazda of the situation. The ball is now in the car company's court.
Cadillac walk. She got the Cadillac walk. She got the Cadillac. She got the Cadillac walk.
Okay, hi, I'm Daryl. Hi, I'm Cindy. And you're watching Motoring 90. Don't go right back. Don't go away.
Rattle my days. She got the Cadillac walk.
Test Drive with Graham Fletcher.
This week on Test Drive, we look at the latest Alpha, the 164. Now this car is going to replace the Milano in the lineup. It's larger, it's got a lot more power under the hood here, and it's also a lot less quirky, so it makes it a very good replacement.
The styling of the new 164, like the Alfa Romeo emblem, is very distinctive, meaning this car will not easily be mistaken for another. While the exterior changes improve the appearance, it is inside the automobile that you find the most significant improvements. The ergonomics have been improved substantially. The relationship between the stick shifter pedals and steering wheel are now near normal. The dash features more warning lights than you can shake a stick at. For me, there are about a dozen too many. The remainder of the instrumentation is clean, clear, and more importantly, legible. The only item that looks out of place is the radio. It is one of Chrysler's Infinity units. Its format just isn't in keeping with the style or layout of the car. The stats on the car we tested. 0 to 100 is accomplished in 8.4 seconds. The car requires 118 feet to stop from 80 kilometers an hour, and you should average around 23 miles per gallon or 12.3 liters per 100 kilometers. Overall, it rates a 7. It would have been an 8 out of 10 if anti-lock brakes were standard. Our vehicle wasn't equipped so. Our test car can be purchased for around $37,500.
That concludes the first portion of this week's test drive. It's now time to look at the 13 cars I've reviewed over the last number of weeks and put them into some sort of perspective.
The first category is the sport utility or minivan class. First, we looked at the all-wheel drive GMC Safari, then the totally new Toyota Previa, and finally Ford's long-awaited Explorer. The Safari offers superb towing capabilities and the sure-footedness of all-wheel drive, but it lacks the quality and ride comfort needed to make it a serious threat. The Previa, on the other hand, features all the quality and versatility, plus an optional four-wheel drive to make it a true contender. The drawback is the limited power supply from the relatively small four-cylinder engine. The winner of this category is the Explorer. It combines the best features of a major competition in one pleasant, practical vehicle. Watch for a Mazda badge version of the two-door Explorer called the Navajo. It will debut soon, not only in North America but also Japan. The next category comprised of the sports cars I tested. The second generation Toyota MR2, the new Isuzu Impulse, and the highly touted Mazda 323 GT. The MR2, especially in turbo trim, is one of the best all-round sports cars offered. Its performance and handling characteristics are real pluses, but the limited space and $30,000 price tag will limit its desirability. When the Impulse's on-road performance equals its paper statistics, it will become a real hot seller. That leaves the 323 GT. It offers good performance, four-door versatility, and is a lot of fun to drive. I had a lot of trouble picking the winner here because the MR2 and 323 are both highly desirable cars for totally different reasons, and so a well-deserved tie. The third and final category features the sedans tested. Because of the large price differential, I split them into two smaller categories, those under $30,000 and those over this price. In the under $30,000 category, we looked at the Honda Accord, the Chevrolet Caprice, and the Volkswagen Passat. The Passat has, since its introduction, boosted Volkswagen's total sales and offers an affordable European sedan to those interested. However, for me, the poor operation of the automatic transmission counts as a major strike against an otherwise attractive package. The Chevy Caprice is large, comfortable, and features everything that is good about the North American automobile industry. It would have won this category hands down if it were not for the Honda Accord. This automobile personifies the Japanese attention to detail and is a tough competitor to beat at any price. Only the lack of anti-lock brakes tarnishes the halo, and so the Accord wins the under 30,000 category easily. In the over 30,000 category, we looked at the latest Volvo, the 740 Turbo, Chrysler's new flagship, the Imperial, the top-of-the-line Mazda 929, and last but not least, the Alfa Romeo 164. The third-generation 740 Turbo features the solid construction and safety that Volvos in general are renowned for. The downside of our test vehicle was the very poor manual transmission. I strongly advise you go with the automatic if you're considering this vehicle. The Imperial was a big disappointment, period. The suspension left a lot to be desired, and in short, there are far better vehicles available for far less money. The Mazda 929 with its new multi-valve V6 offers tried and true performance in a neat package, albeit staid. It will continue to sit, though, high on my list of desirable cars. The winner of this category, though, is the new Alfa Romeo 164. It offers all you need in a car packed with European charm and charisma. The only drawback I foresee is the small number of dealers, which will limit the availability of parts and service.
That wraps it up for this week. Before I go, I'd just like to thank the manufacturers for lending me the cars I've tested over the last few weeks, and to the guys at Autolin for lending me this superb Alfa.
Although there are plenty of sophisticated race car trailers here on Gasoline Alley at Exhibition Stadium, there's just as many mechanics just working out of their own 4x4s. And speaking of mechanics, it's now time to join our favorite man, Bill Gardiner. Now, we've given poor Bill the week off. He's been working so hard, and instead, we thought we'd take some time and look back at just some of his favorite auto tips.
If your car's riding on fairly new full-depth tires, you can quite often get away with picking up small items like finishing nails or small screws that'll pierce the tread but not puncture the tire completely and cause it to deflate just by the fact that you've got a lot of tread depth. But as your tires become more worn, they become more and more susceptible to puncture. And we've got a couple of nails in this one. We're going to talk about a very safe and effective way of repairing these tires, sometimes without even demounting them. Now, in order to prepare the wound, we have to put some vulcanizing fluid on the tool and run it through that wound a couple more times to lubricate the hole and prepare it for installation of the repair plug. Once we've done that, we can pick up the plug. We've already partially removed the plastic cover from the plug, and it's important not to touch this type of a plug. Remove the reaming tool, and we're going to coat the plug with that same vulcanizing fluid that we used to lubricate the hole. And that's going to start this plug in a curing process that's going to take about 72 hours to complete. But when we install the plug in the tire, it'll repair the wound just by the compression fit of the plug. We're going to shove that plug tight through the tire. Now it's doubled back over on itself, and when we pull the tool out, the plug will be left in the tire, doubled up on the inside. And this cushion gum on the outside, the gray stuff that you see on the outside of the plug, will start to vulcanize itself right to the tire and to the other side of the plug. Now, down at the base of the steering column, we have this saddle-shaped clamp. I've already loosened the two nuts that hold it to the body of the vehicle, and I'll slide those off. And I'm going to remove the bolts that secure this saddle clamp to the steering column. Now I can remove this clamp. There's 4 bolts holding it to the column and 2 studs holding the bracket to the car. Now you can see this saddle clamp is an interesting piece. It's got another safety feature incorporated in it. It's mounted here to the vehicle and here to the steering column of the car. If you're in a frontal collision, the bracket can get away from these two, and these pieces will remain on those studs, allowing the column to get away from you. We're going to have our assistant step on the brake pedal to bring the caliper piston out. You can see it starting to come out of the caliper bore. Now this piston is as deep as this caliper bore. We want to get it out of there so we can have a look at it and see if there's any rust or corrosion or seizure in this bore. It's a very tight fit, and at very least we want to clean this up and service it.
Well, as we move into a brand new summer and reach the midway point of 1990, we thought we'd take some time and look back at just some of the stories that we've covered over the past few months on Motoring 90.
Robosaurus is a combination of a robot and a dinosaur, and it is a 30-ton, 40-foot tall giant robot that picks up and eats cars, 4,000-pound cars. Driving it, there are two pilots inside the head, and the front pilot operates all of the mechanical controls, and the rear pilot actuates all of the special effects and also activates the computer program that helps the pilots run some of the functions. What we've done is taken kind of a quantum leap with a very massive project. This took 2 years and in the neighborhood of $2 million to complete. Most of the other vehicles in here are nowhere near that range. So I think it'll be a while before anybody comes up with something of this magnitude. We have a massive hydraulic system. There's 27 hydraulic rams, 6 hydraulic pumps, and this is running at 7,000 PSI. So there are a lot of connections, a lot of potential things that could go wrong, but we're on our initial tour right now, and we're 4 weeks into it, and so far all we've had is minor problems, and we're crossing our fingers.
Obviously it's a challenge, but is it a lot of fun too?
Oh, I'm hooping and hollering the whole time I'm up there. I'm having a good time at this.
Great.
I think this is every person's dream, to have the control of something this massive and be able to go out and do a little bit of safe, fun destruction.
Immediately after the collision, what we have to check is if there's any fuel spillage. So we just wait till all the high-speed cameras stop rolling, and then we go close to the vehicle and collect any fuel spillage if there's any.
Now, there's no live fuel in the automobile, though.
No, it's not real fuel. It's being replaced by what we call a solvent, which is quite close to the same density than fuel. It's colored red, so if there's any leakage, it's much easier to see.
Now, you also check the dummies, is that correct, after?
We check the dummies, but only about half an hour after that. The first thing we do is absolutely check for fuel leakage for the first 30 minutes.
Not only will a tire work better if it's properly inflated on a wet pavement, it'll work better on a dry pavement, and that's the way we want our tires to work.
I think there's a perception that women don't know anything about their cars, and I think it really, it hurts. It's not a very healthy way to be. I think what we're realizing is we all need basic information, and it's available, and we need to take responsibility and go out and get it so that we're more in charge of this expensive and important part of our lives.
The cars have been on the track now for 21 hours. Now these next 3 hours, it's crunch time. The sun is out, it's about 85 degrees. Now some of us have been lucky enough to get back to the hotel for a shower and a change of clothing. As for the crews, they have to do the best they can.
The worst part is about 6 o'clock in the morning when the sun first starts coming up, because at that time you realize that you're just about to make it through the night, but you still have so many hours left to go. So you're really tired, you want to get it over with. We all look pretty bad. We all stay up. Everybody stays up, drivers included. And everybody's afraid that if they go to sleep, they'll miss something exciting. So we look pretty ragged by the end of the 24.
Well, you have to take everything into consideration. It's not like your NASCAR, your Indy cars, where you've got a given track and the ground's there and what have you. If you take a basketball, for instance, bounce it once, it'll bounce back to you in your hands. If you throw a basketball in water, it just hits and it stays there. So every corner's different, every little puff of wind you get is different. It's always something different. You've just got to find the edge where you're flying, but you're not totally flying. You've got a bit of the boat in the water.
Maybe the most common problem might be something like a stalled vehicle on a hot summer day, and where, for whatever reason, the vehicle stalls and it's sitting in a lane, a moving traffic lane, and of course that's potentially extremely dangerous. And also it starts to cause congestion. And for each minute that vehicle is there, it's going to cause, during rush hour anyways, about 10 minutes of congestion. So once the operator spotted that, he may do several things. First of all, he'll probably notify the police or the towing services and get people moving in terms of responding and send them to the right place with the right equipment. The other thing he can do is he can notify the motorist of the problem. We are presently installing some changeable message signs at strategic locations, so that as a motorist is approaching that area, he may be warned that he's going to need to slow down because there's a problem ahead. And so hopefully that way we can reduce the danger and reduce many of the rear-end collisions which are so common on freeways when there's a sudden change in speed. We occasionally do catch accidents, or in some cases secondary accidents, where the accident's already occurred, and because of the traffic problems that produces, our operator's notified via the computer. And when he zooms in, it's not that uncommon to see another accident happening as people all of a sudden have to slow down, and we're either going too fast or because of the weather conditions couldn't stop, and of course they run into the back of the queue.
Kenzie's Corner with Jim Kenzie.
Police departments across this country of ours are engaged in a jihad, a holy war against speeders. In British Columbia, the RCMP gives out little brochures at the border warning you of the dangers. In Nova Scotia, you can lose your license for a single speeding violation. Here in Ontario, the Ontario Provincial Police have launched a zero-tolerance campaign against speeding. But you know, about 6 months ago, the OPP launched another blitz against speeding, and now they're telling us the problem's getting worse. Shake your heads, guys. If the patient is sick and medicine makes him sicker, why are you giving him more medicine? The point is, speed is not a problem in itself. Speed is the objective. The reason we have highways like this is we're in a hurry. We've got cars capable of 120 kilometers an hour. We've got highways engineered to take 120 kilometers an hour. The problem is we don't have drivers who know how to drive 120 kilometers an hour. So forget about zero tolerance on the speeds. That's not the issue. Zero tolerance left lane bandits. Zero tolerance tailgaters. Zero tolerance drunks. Zero tolerance people who don't use their turn signals when they change lanes. And more to the point, let's teach people how to drive before we give them a license. Then we'll see some satisfaction on the highways. This is Jim Kenzie for Motoring 90.
Well, the action is continuing here, but we're out of time, at least for this week. You know, this is our first visit to the stock car races here at Exhibition Stadium, and one thing became quite apparent. The fan turnout is low, but the action is exciting, and you gotta figure that it's only a matter of time before Toronto racing fans and racing fans from across the country start filling the seats. That's it for now. We'll see you next week for more Motoring 90.
Motoring 90 is brought to you by Quaker State. The Big Q stands for quality. Always has, always will.